and the tomb is empty. The tomb is empty. I was sitting back thinking about that. That really is not a true statement. Obviously Jesus resurrected. Jesus left the tomb. But in all honesty, the tomb was not empty. First of all, there were the grave clothes that were left lying there. The clothes that wrapped Jesus' body, they just laid flat. They weren't cut off him. They weren't unraveled. He just disappeared and resurrected, and the clothes fell flat. And then the linen that he covered his head, Jesus took and he folded neatly and put it in its place. As to say, I got up on purpose. I have resurrected on purpose. And so the grave, the tomb, it's not empty. Because in that tomb were not only clothing, grave clothes, but in that tomb was my sin. In that tomb was my shame. In that tomb was my guilt of everything that I've said and done to hurt others and to hurt myself. All of that had been left in the grave. Amen. And so the resurrection, man, oh man, the resurrection is as relevant today as it was on that very first Resurrection Sunday. Now, I know that on Easter, there's a lot of people who are strong in the faith and they believe, and I know there are a lot of people out there who just seem to question. They just say, I don't know about this whole Jesus thing. I don't fully know about the resurrection, if I buy into it or not. And I know, if I were to ask you why it is that you don't believe, you'd probably have some really good answers. Maybe it was the family that you were raised in. Maybe it was someone from the church who said something or did something to hurt you and cause offense. Whatever the reason is that maybe you don't believe, well, if you were to share with me and I were to ask you why is it, and you were to tell me, I would venture to say I would understand. And there would be no judgment on my behalf. I would understand why it is that you think and feel the way that you do. But if you were to come to me and to say, Pastor Paul, I want you to give it your best. I want you to take your best shot to convince me to consider Jesus. If you came to me and it's just the two of us, I'm not forcing you, I didn't turn you around and you said, just give me your best shot to consider Jesus. You know what? I would not start with church history. Because in all honesty, there were seasons in the church that what we did, was not God-pleasing. I would not start with Christians and trying to defend what Christians have said and what Christians have done throughout history because, once again, we have not always lived love. And I would not even start with the Bible. Now, I know that's kind of shocking to you. What do you mean you wouldn't start with the Bible? I don't even think I would begin with the Bible. I had one shot, one opportunity to convince you to consider Jesus. I would start with the event that we are celebrating this morning. I would start with the resurrection of Jesus. Because the truth is, thousands and thousands of people believed that Jesus rose from the dead long before there was a New Testament. Thousands and thousands of people believed that Jesus was resurrected long before the New Testament was compiled. And my friends, people started believing that Jesus rose from the dead the morning he rose from the dead. And in the first century, those people, they did exactly what you and I would have done if we witnessed someone being crucified. We witnessed them dying. We knew where their tomb was. And several days later, we had breakfast with them on the beach. They did the same thing that you and I would do. We would go directly to social media, wouldn't we? Man, oh man, if that happened to me, I'd be all over Facebook, I'd be over Snapchat, Instagram, you name it, I'd be all over all the different social media platforms because I would want everyone to know what it was that I just witnessed. Well, they did exactly that first century style. They immediately started telling everyone what they experienced. They immediately started writing letters and boldly proclaiming the truth that Jesus rose from the dead. And so if you were to ask me, just take your best shot to convince me to consider Jesus, I would not start with the Bible. I would start with the eyewitnesses.